Chapter 367. Early the next morning, Tang Yuxian woke up from her meditative state and looked around, slowly getting up and walking to the side. Not far away, Tu Feng was standing with his hands crossed behind his back, staring forward motionlessly. "What are you doing?" Tang Yuxian walked up to him and asked, a puzzled look on her face. "Shu." Tu Feng quickly gestured to her and then motioned her to look forward. Acting all mysterious, Tang Yuxian rolled her eyes and looked towards the direction Yang Kai was pointing, instantly becoming stunned on the spot. Not far in front of him, the young master of his family was in an extremely strange posture. One foot on the ground, two arms stretched out, like the wings of a flying bird, slowly and rhythmically moving up and down. At first glance, it seemed that he was also like a bird flying through the sky, full of a natural charm. What made Tang Yuxian feel even more surprised, though, was that the silver blood golden feather eagle in front of the little lord was actually mimicking his movements. Spreading its two golden wings, the silver blood golden feather eagle let out a series of cries as it flapped its wings up and down, rolling up a gust of wind. However, at this moment, the golden feather eagle was not as hostile as it had been a few days ago, its cries instead seeming to contain a sense of intimacy. As time passed, when the rhythm of the man and eagle completely overlapped, the little lord and eagle slowly flew up from the ground at the same time. It seemed that at that moment, the man and eagle had perfectly overlapped, becoming one. Both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian were dumbfounded, their faces filled with astonishment. The two of them were both powerful and had high cultivation. But if they asked themselves, they had no way to deal with this golden feather eagle. In the entire Yang family, besides the one who specifically raised and trained them, the golden feather eagle didn't care about anyone, but now it was actually playing with the little lord. And this was even after the little lord had plucked out two of its golden feathers. For a moment, the two blood warriors couldn't believe what they were seeing and couldn't help glancing at each other. Their eyes were filled with confusion and shock, wondering what kind of magical method Yang Kai had used to accomplish this. A moment later, the man and eagle were several dozen meters above the ground. This was accompanied by a burst of laughter. Yang Kai suddenly turned around and flew directly onto the back of the golden feather eagle, under the watchful eyes of the two blood warriors. The golden feather eagle let out a crisp cry and spread its wings. The back of the golden feather eagle was not wide, barely enough for a person to sit on. However, whether it was Tu Feng or Tang Yuxian, both of them were clearly aware that Yang Kai wasn't using any of his strength or yuan qi at all. It was the golden feather eagle that was carrying him, and it was doing so voluntarily. "Didn't you say this beast was very vengeful?" Tang Yuxian suddenly felt like her brain wasn't working. Tu Feng opened his mouth and suddenly grinned meaningfully. "Good, he really made us look at him in a new light. But if that's all, it's not enough." Tang Yuxian nodded slightly. Wanting a blood warrior to willingly submit to him wasn't a simple matter. Especially Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian, both of whom were powerful immortal ascension boundary masters, how could they easily submit to a mere eagle? After a long time, the golden feather eagle slowly descended. When it was about 100 feet above the ground, Yang Kai also jumped down from its back. The golden feathered eagle folded its wings and landed directly on Yang Kai's shoulder, looking extremely obedient. Its hook-like beak also affectionately combed Yang Kai's hair. "Little lord is truly amazing," Tu Feng sincerely praised. Yang Kai patted the golden feather eagle's head and chuckled. "I offended it a few days ago. It took me a lot of effort to turn it into a friend." "How did you do that?" Tang Yuxian asked curiously. Yang Kai's expression became serious as he said solemnly, "I felt its heart and let it perceive my intentions." Tang Yuxian couldn't help but blink, suddenly feeling like this was quite profound. "Let's go." Yang Kai didn't have any intention of showing off and simply jumped onto the cloud-treading colt. Over the next few days, the group's speed was still neither fast nor slow, but the relationship between the golden feather eagle and Yang Kai was becoming more and more intimate. Even this fifth-order monster beast could clearly perceive Yang Kai's various commands, whether they were simple or complex. It was able to complete all of them without any flaws. The two blood warriors were suddenly amazed by Yang Kai. Even the Yang family member who raised and trained the golden feather eagle probably didn't have Yang Kai's ability. This time, if the little lord was defeated in the inheritance war, it wouldn't be a bad idea to become an eagle breeder in the Yang family. Yang Kai was also secretly amused. If it weren't for the two blood warriors, he wouldn't have gone through so much trouble. A trivial fifth-order monster beast, with just a single beast-slave seal, no matter how unruly it would have no choice but to obediently obey. Yang Kai still had to act for a few days, which was extremely exhausting. Another 3 days later, in front of High Heaven Pavilion, the entire sect was in tatters and ruins. The ground was scorched and there were collapsed buildings everywhere. The earth was groaning. Yang Kai's face was gloomy and his mood was somewhat heavy. The sect that had existed for hundreds of years was now in ruins. If it was a few years ago, Yang Kai wouldn't have a sense of belonging to this place. But after experiencing so many things, Yang Kai had already regarded this place as his own. This is Little Lord's sect? Tang Yuxian looked at Yang Kai curiously, wondering why this place was so bleak and desolate, as if it had been completely destroyed. Yang Kai dismounted from his cloud-treading colt and nodded slightly. Tu Feng stepped forward and found a huge burnt plaque on the ground, picking it up and flipping it over. Tang Yuxian curiously leaned over to take a look. The last time she had asked Yang Kai which sect he belonged to, Yang Kai had avoided answering, making her very concerned. High Heaven, Tu Feng murmured softly. The plaque had been burned beyond recognition, and the last word was somewhat unclear, but Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian were naturally not shallow, so they immediately thought of a possibility. High Heaven Pavilion? Tang Yuxian's pretty face was filled with surprise, exchanging a glance with Tu Feng before quickly turning to Yang Kai. Yang Kai nodded slightly. The two blood warriors couldn't help sucking in a cold breath as they stared in shock. High Heaven Pavilion. It was just a second-class sect, but this sect was now world-famous. It was the sect where the demon lord had come from. It was also said that when the Chiu family masters had come here before, they had suffered a big loss. The Chiu family's first young lady, Chiu Yimeng, had disappeared here, along with Luo Xiaoman from Purple Fern Valley and by families by Yunfeng. Several Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters had been injured. After that incident, the Chiu family's masters sent out news that High Heaven Pavilion had an above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master. An above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master? No second-class sect had ever produced such a character. With such a character in charge, High Heaven Pavilion could easily become a first-class force. Because Chiu Yimeng had disappeared, the Chiu family masters had burned down High Heaven Pavilion in a fit of anger. Until now, there was also no news of the Chiu family's first young lady. As members of the 8 great families, the 2 blood warriors of the Yang family were naturally clear about this information. Learning about Yang Kai's sect, the 2 blood warriors were truly shocked. Tu Feng stared blankly at the broken plaque. Throwing it away or holding it wasn't right, all he could do was roll his eyes. Yang Kai had already stepped inside. Little Lord, be careful, there are many people inside. Tang Yuxian quickly warned. There are people inside? Yang Kai was startled and quickly released his divine sense to investigate. A moment later, a look of surprise appeared on his face. Sure enough, there were people inside, and there were quite a few of them, at least a few hundred. Glancing inside suspiciously, Yang Kai hurriedly walked in. After walking for a short time, Yang Kai saw that High Heaven Pavilion was in full swing. The people who came and went were all familiar faces. These people were actually all former disciples of High Heaven Pavilion. Some were from the younger generation, some were from the previous generation, and everyone was busy cleaning up the ruins of the sect. It seemed that they wanted to rebuild High Heaven Pavilion. Yang Kai stared blankly. High Heaven Pavilion was because of its relationship with the Demon Lord. It had been designated as an evil sect, and before the sect's disaster, Ling Tai-su had dismissed 90% of its disciples, leaving only 100 or so people to leave the sect through the Void Corridor. How could so many people suddenly appear now? And they were even beginning to rebuild with such fanfare. Weren't they afraid the Chiu family would come looking for trouble again? While Yang Kai was confused, A high heaven pavilion disciple who was passing by suddenly stopped and stared at him in surprise. She cried out involuntarily, "Kai Yang?" Yang Kai turned his head and found that this person turned out to be Chao Zhengwen. Originally a disciple of the great elder, he was later recruited by the Bai families by Yun Feng, but after being severely injured by Yang Kai, Bai Yun Feng no longer paid attention to him. Chao Zhengwen had spent several months in the sect recovering from his injuries, so the matter of him joining the Bai family was left unsettled. Since then, the entire sect didn't like him very much. "Brother Chao!" Yang Kai called out casually. Chao Zhengwen panicked and stumbled back a few steps. Last time, Yang Kai had injured him in a flash, leaving him with a psychological shadow. Now that he saw Yang Kai again, he found that he was much stronger than before, so naturally he was frightened. Their conversation spread to the side and immediately attracted the attention of many people. After discovering Yang Kai, the High Heaven Pavilion disciples all felt a little embarrassed. "Where's Yang Kai?" A low voice called out from nearby. When this voice reached Yang Kai's ears, Yang Kai couldn't help narrowing his eyes. Looking towards the source of this voice, Yang Kai saw a handsome young man striding over. Dressed in a black robe, this young man's eyes flashed like lightning as he stared coldly towards Yang Kai. Standing 10 meters in front of Yang Kai, this young man glanced over at Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian indifferently, but when he saw Tang Yuxian, his eyes couldn't help but light up slightly. Immediately, this young man converged his gaze and stared at Yang Kai, his mouth curling into a smile as he said, "Junior brother Yang, you've returned." Yang Kai also grinned, "Brother Xie." Xie Hongchen was one of the core disciples of High Heaven Pavilion, and Yang Kai had countless grievances with him. "It's good that you're back." Brother Xie Hongchen's face was full of arrogance as he said with a faint arrogance on his face, "Since you've returned, you should help us rebuild the sect. It just so happens that we are currently short of manpower." It seems that junior brother Yang has grown a lot these past few years. There are many places here for you to show off your skills. I hope you won't be disappointed. Yang Kai's brow furrowed slightly. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian couldn't help feeling surprised, their expressions becoming extremely strange. Chapter 368. This boy was quite interesting. He actually wanted a young lord of the Yang family to help rebuild this ruin and even boasted about showing off his skills. The place where Yang Kai wanted to show off his skills was the central capital, the Yang family's inheritance war. But not here. "Are these two your friends?" Xie Hongchen turned his eyes to Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian and asked lightly. "N." Yang Kai nodded slightly. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian's expressions changed slightly, but they didn't speak. They were Yang family blood warriors, their status was lower than that of a Yang family young lord, so naturally they weren't qualified to be Yang Kai's friends. But Yang Kai simply admitted it, which made the two of them feel a little touched. Xie Hongchen smiled, somewhat unconcerned. "Since you are junior brother Yang's friends, you are also my High Heaven Pavilion's friends. If you two don't mind, you can also help. Naturally, there will be many benefits for you." The two blood warriors' brow furrowed slightly, their expressions becoming playful. Glancing at each other, they could see the look in each other's eyes. Although they were Yang family blood warriors and their status was lower than that of a Yang family young lord, that was only within the Yang family. If they really left the Yang family, even the elders of first-class forces wouldn't dare treat them so casually, let alone order them to do anything. But this little brat in front of them actually wanted them to help rebuild High Heaven Pavilion and even wanted to give them benefits? Benefits that could satisfy the Yang family blood warriors were not something an average person could offer. Did this little brat really have such confidence? Xie Hongchen looked up at the sky and couldn't help frowning after a moment. Where did this eagle come from? It's so noisy it's annoying. Yang Kai couldn't help but pinch his nose while the looks on Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian's faces became more and more strange. The golden feather eagle had followed Yang Kai back here and had already flown up into the sky. Its cries echoing out naturally attracted Xie Hongchen's attention. Xie Hongchen nodded slightly, a trace of appreciation flashing across his eyes, "But this eagle is quite handsome." Saying so, turning his head, he called out, "Martial Uncle Zhong." A middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s immediately walked over. This person was also a member of High Heaven Pavilion. Even though he was only a disciple from the previous generation, he had now reached the immortal ascension boundary first stage, which wasn't too bad. Is something the matter, martial nephew? Xie Hongchen pointed at the golden feather eagle in the sky and asked, with martial uncle skills, can you shoot that eagle down? I don't want to disturb those two girls. The martial uncle raised his head and looked at him. After a moment, he shook his head and said, it's too high, and this eagle doesn't look weak. I'm afraid I can't do anything. Xie Hongchen frowned, his expression somewhat displeased as he waved his hand. Then it's fine, you can go back to work. After this person left, Xie Hongchen smiled faintly. It seems that I have to do it myself. Junior brother Yang waited for a moment. I'll talk to you after I've dealt with the eagle. Yang Kai nodded indifferently. In the next moment, Xie Hongchen shot up into the sky and flew straight towards the golden feather eagle. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian didn't have the slightest intention of stopping him, just staring at Xie Hongchen's back as if they were watching a good show. The Yang family's golden feather eagle. If it was so easy to catch or shoot down, it wouldn't be a monster beast raised by the Yang family. Does this person have some kind of grudge with the little lord? Tang Yuxian looked at Yang Kai with a smile. Just now, Xie Hongchen's attitude towards Yang Kai was clearly seen by her, and now he intended to show off his skills in front of Yang Kai. Obviously, there was some kind of grudge between the two. It's all in the past, Yang Kai said indifferently, gently shaking his head. The battle with Xie Hongchen was just an internal struggle within the sect. Now that the sect was gone, Yang Kai didn't care about the past. Where did this eagle come from? Just as he was looking at Xie Hongchen, a voice suddenly called out from the side. Immediately, two beautiful figures quickly walked over from a short distance away. The one leading them was a tall woman in her 20s, with bright eyes and white teeth, snow-white skin, and a slender waist. She wore a long purple dress that set off her noble temperament. Beside her was a petite woman who seemed to be younger. This woman was quite petite, but her pair of jade peaks were huge, as if they were about to burst out of her clothes. As she walked, her jade peaks undulated up and down in an exaggerated manner. Her small face was an intoxicating blush, and her round buttocks seemed to ripple like waves, making anyone who saw them feel as if they would sink into them and be unable to extricate themselves. The two pairs of beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at the golden feather eagle in the sky, both of their expressions extremely dignified. It was as if what they were looking at wasn't an eagle soaring through the sky, but a giant monster. When the two women walked out, the nearby High Heaven Pavilion disciples, whether male or female, old or young, all stopped what they were doing and respectfully saluted. Greetings, young lady Qiu. Greetings, young lady Luo. Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman turned a deaf ear to these greetings and continued to stare straight up into the sky. Elder sister Qiu, is this really that eagle? Luo Xiaoman still gave off an innocent and naive feeling, asking softly as she observed. It should be. Qiu Yimeng nodded solemnly, but I've only heard about it, I've never seen it with my own eyes. That Xie Hongchen flew up. Luo Xiaoman pointed to the sky. What does that idiot want to do? Qiu Yimeng's eyes flashed coldly, her pretty face extremely cold. Does he want to kill that eagle? How could that eagle be killed so casually? Even if it was wounded, it would likely cause a lot of trouble. Although she had long known that Xie Hongchen liked to show off, at this moment, Qiu Yimeng felt that he was simply an idiot. As long as one had a good eye, they would probably be able to see that this eagle's origin was extraordinary. Young lady Qiu? Tang Yuxian looked at Qiu Yimeng suspiciously and called out softly. When Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman walked over together, Yang Kai and the two blood warriors were stunned. No matter who it was, none of them had expected to meet these two here. Yang Kai knew that the two of them were under the control of Shanqing Luo, but Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian didn't know that Qiu Yimeng had disappeared from High Heaven Pavilion without any news since. After carefully examining Qiu Yimeng for a moment, Tang Yuxian confirmed that this was the Qiu family's first young lady who had been missing for several months. Seeing this, she couldn't help calling out. Hearing this, Qiu Yimeng quickly turned her head, and after seeing Yang Kai, her expression also froze. Luo Xiaoman's beautiful face went pale with fright, and she quickly hid behind Qiu Yimeng while glaring at Yang Kai. "HM?" Tu Feng suddenly wondered, his expression becoming strange, faintly feeling that this Qiu family first young lady seemed to know his little lord. After a long time, Qiu Yimeng smiled at Yang Kai before turning her eyes to Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian, sizing them up. Tang Yuxian recognized her, but she didn't know Tang Yuxian, but when she saw the jade tokens on the waists of the two blood warriors, her pretty face couldn't help changing. "Young family blood warriors? Greetings, young lady Qiu." Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian both quickly saluted. Qiu Yimeng's status was equal to Yang Kai's, and it could even be said that Qiu Yimeng's status was higher than Yang Kai's. After all, this woman was a rare genius of the Qiu family and was one of the best of the younger generation in the central capital, while Yang Kai was just a disciple who had yet to return to his family. Facing such a character, Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian couldn't be careless. The look on Qiu Yimeng's face changed several times as her eyes swept back and forth between the three people in front of her. After a long time, she stared at Yang Kai and couldn't help laughing. "The Yang family blood warriors are here, and you also have the Yang family's unique silver blood golden feather eagle. Are you a direct descendant of the Yang family?" Seeing this, if Qiu Yimeng still didn't know Yang Kai's true identity, she wouldn't be Qiu Yimeng. Yang Kai nodded. "It seems I've been mistaken all this time," Qiu Yimeng muttered to herself. Although she knew that Yang Kai hadn't revealed his identity because of the Yang family's rules, now that she thought about it, she couldn't help feeling a little depressed. It was ridiculous that when she was in Shanqing Luo's palace, she had even offered generous conditions to win Yang Kai over to the Qiu family. He was already a young lord of the Yang family, so what was the point of trying to win him over? No wonder he wasn't tempted at all at that time. Qiu Yimeng had always thought that his eyes were higher than his head and his temperament was indifferent. Now that she thought about it, he had never even considered it, nor did he need to consider it. Grinding her teeth as she glared at Yang Kai, Qiu Yimeng couldn't wait to skin him alive to relieve the shame and embarrassment in her heart. No one had ever forced her to eat such a bitter pill. "You're a young lord of the Yang family?" Luo Xiaoman also stared blankly at Yang Kai and asked. "Naturally he is." Qiu Yimeng sneered softly. Luo Xiaoman suddenly became speechless and didn't know what to say. She still remembered that Qiu Yimeng had once evaluated Yang Kai, saying that fortunately he didn't have a strong background. If he did, the whole world would have been turned upside down by him. Now it seemed that his background was not only strong, but also deep. It was simply incomparable. "Do you too know my young lord?" Tang Yuxian's beautiful eyes flashed as she curiously stared at Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman. As a woman, she smelled a hint of unusualness from the conversation between these people. It seemed that there was some kind of unusual relationship between her little lord and these two girls in front of her. Of course I know him." Qiu Yimeng smiled sweetly as she bit her lip. Tu Feng couldn't help shivering as he felt goosebumps appear all over his body. "You don't need to look at me with such hostility, I don't owe you anything." Yang Kai looked at Qiu Yimeng with a wry smile. He could naturally feel the hostility from this woman. "You don't owe us anything?" Qiu Yimeng sneered. "You owe us a lot." These words were quite ambiguous to the ears, causing Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian's expressions to fill with anticipation. "Do you want me to go through them one by one for you?" Qiu Yimeng stared at Yang Kai intently. Yang Kai's expression remained indifferent as he nodded. "You speak, I'm listening." Qiu Yimeng smiled, her beautiful eyes flashing a sly light as she pursed her red lips. "Then let's start with the fan, hey?" Yang Kai's expression changed as he quickly rushed up and covered her mouth. Chapter 369. He had gone out early in the morning to pay his New Year's greetings and only returned home after dark. Tomorrow he would continue to go out, but he wouldn't stop updating. The name Shanqing Luo couldn't be casually mentioned. Seeing their young lord acting so boldly, the two blood warriors couldn't help but stare at him in amazement. Qiu Yimeng, the Qiu family's first young lady, a prominent figure in the central capital, the target of all the young lords. No one had ever dared to treat her like this. However, even after being treated like this, she didn't attack and instead just struggled like an ordinary woman. Glancing at each other, the two blood warriors could see the excitement in each other's eyes. There's something strange here. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian thought to themselves. Let go. Qiu Yimeng couldn't break free and shouted vaguely. Yang Kai glanced at her threateningly before slowly letting go and retreating a few steps. Frowning, Yang Kai said indifferently, I don't owe you anything. What happened to you is your own fault. It has nothing to do with me. Heartless. Qiu Yimeng grit her teeth. Don't say such easily misunderstood words. We've only met by chance. There's no friendship between us. Yang Kai coldly snorted. Qiu Yimeng suddenly felt bitter. She found that all of her previous methods had no effect on Yang Kai. If these methods were used on any other young lord of the central capital, they would definitely be happy to oblige, so how could he treat her so coldly? I have a lot of things to ask you. Is there a convenient place to talk? Yang Kai looked around. Qiu Yimeng curled her lips. However, after thinking for a moment, she nodded. Come with me. The surrounding High Heaven Pavilion disciples all wore blank looks, feeling somewhat inexplicable. They hadn't heard the conversation between Yang Kai and Qiu Yimeng just now. All they had seen was an ambiguous scene. Qiu Yimeng, they all knew each other, so why did it seem that Yang Kai was an old acquaintance of hers, and their relationship wasn't shallow? What kind of ability did he have? He was actually able to befriend a master like the Qiu family's first young lady. Not long after the group of people left, Xie Hongqian descended from the sky with a face full of grime. After chasing for so long, he didn't even manage to catch a single hair of the golden feather eagle and was almost injured by it. After landing, he was surprised to find that Yang Kai had disappeared. Where is Yang Kai? Xie Hongqian asked the people around him coldly. He was invited by Miss Qiu. A junior brother beside him answered. Invited? Xie Hongqian raised his eyebrows. With a look of disbelief, he asked, Are you sure he was invited? The junior brother observed his expression and didn't dare to be so sure. He could only mumble, It seems that he was called over by Miss Qiu. Xie Hongqian nodded with satisfaction, but soon became suspicious. Why did Qiu Yimeng call him over? I should be the one in charge here. What right does he have to be called over? Confused, Yang Kai quickly walked over to the place where Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman were temporarily resting. Inside one of the rooms, Qiu Yimeng, Luo Xiaoman, and Yang Kai sat at a table. The room was very simple and there weren't many furnishings inside. It was obvious that it was newly built, probably to provide accommodation for Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman outside the house. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian stood like door gods, not moving at all, their expressions cold and solemn. The Qiu family's first young lady personally poured tea. Sitting back down, she brushed her hair behind her ear and turned to Yang Kai. If you have any questions, just ask. When did she let you go? Yang Kai picked up his teacup and asked casually. About a month ago. Qiu Yimeng smiled bitterly, naturally knowing that Yang Kai was referring to the beguiling demon Queen Shanqing Luo. She really didn't embarrass us. She just took us around the battlefield and let us leave before the decisive battle began. What did you gain? I've changed a lot. Qiu Yimeng hesitated for a while before sincerely saying, I used to think that all the people in the ash-gray cloud evil land deserve to die, but now I don't dare think so. I've seen many innocent people being cruelly slaughtered by self-proclaimed righteous people. I've also seen many outside forces commit crimes in the ash-gray cloud evil land. She's right, this world is not just black and white. Everyone has an evil spirit in their heart, and everyone has the potential to become an evil spirit. It's just a matter of whether or not you can stick to your heart. Yang Kai nodded lightly. It was really rare for Qiu Yimeng to change so much. Shanqing Luo taking her to the battlefield was the right thing to do. Perhaps Shanqing Luo hoped that she could use the power of the Qiu family to change the world's perception of the ash-gray cloud evil land, so she had taken such great pains. After I came back, I came here. Qiu Yimeng smiled happily. Does your Qiu family know that you're safe? Yang Kai frowned. I've already sent a letter back. Qiu Yimeng nodded. Purple Fern Valley also sent a letter. As for the Bai family, Yang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly as he stared straight at Qiu Yimeng. The latter chuckled lightly. Don't be nervous. Xiaoman and I told the Bai family that Bai Yunfeng was hunted down by the Thunderbolt Beast King's subordinates and unfortunately died. It has nothing to do with you and that woman. That would be for the best. Yang Kai smiled with satisfaction. Although Bai Yunfeng's death really had nothing to do with him, if the truth of the matter were to spread, the Bai family would not let it go. Those great forces were notorious for being unreasonable, otherwise, High Heaven Pavilion would not have suffered such a disaster. Qiu Yimeng slowly stretched her waist, revealing her graceful curves, but she didn't seem to care at all and simply said, I once told you that if one day I was able to escape, I would definitely help High Heaven Pavilion restore its name. Right now, I don't have that ability, so I can only rebuild this place first and then make other plans. Although Qiu Yimeng was the first young lady of the Qiu family, restoring High Heaven Pavilion's reputation was a matter of great importance and was not something she could decide alone. At the very least, she needed someone from one of the super forces to take the lead. Are you presiding over the reconstruction work here? Yang Kai looked at her in surprise. What do you think? Qiu Yimeng smiled. High Heaven Pavilion has been designated as an evil sect. If I didn't show up, who would dare to build here? I was originally going to treat this place as one of the Qiu family's properties for the time being and then find an opportunity to restore High Heaven Pavilion in the future. This can be considered as returning a favor to you. This is not returning a favor, this is what your Qiu family should do. Yang Kai sneered. Qiu Yimeng was startled but didn't refute, nodding. That makes sense. After all, it was my Qiu family who set this place on fire, but no matter what, you're back now. Moreover, you're a person with a strong background, so just treat this place as your own property. I'm too lazy to get involved. This is the property of the Yang family's young lord, no one will say anything, right? Yang Kai was startled but didn't refuse. After pondering for a long time, he felt that this was indeed a good idea and nodded, thank you. Qiu Yimeng's eyes lit up as she smiled happily. But what happened to those people outside? Where did you find them? Yang Kai asked curiously. They were nearby. Qiu Yimeng smiled, resting her chin on the table as she said lazily, they were all people who had taken refuge with the two nearby sects. I talked to the higher-ups of the two factions and brought them back. Yang Kai suddenly understood. The people outside should be disciples who had taken refuge with Storm Hall and Blood Battle Gang. Yang Kai hadn't expected that before the sect's disaster, Xia Hongchen, a core disciple, would also leave High Heaven Pavilion. On the contrary, people like Li Yuntian had firmly stayed behind and finally escaped through the void corridor thousands of kilometers away. It was true that a long road tests a horse's strength and a long time reveals a person's heart. However, Yang Kai didn't think too much about it. At that time, they had chosen to leave the sect. It was also their freedom. Those people had been taken in by Storm Hall, and now Qiu Yimeng had come forward to bring them back. With her status as the Qiu family's first young lady, how could Blood Battle Gang and Storm Hall dare say anything? One's own sect must be rebuilt by one's own people, don't you think so? Qiu Yimeng smiled, her eyes full of expectation, as if she was waiting for Yang Kai to praise her. Yang Kai turned a deaf ear to her words and just glanced over at Luo Xiaoman, who was grinning at him like a little tiger. Qiu Yimeng suddenly rolled her eyes, knowing that this guy was just pretending to be confused, so she didn't force him. Right, when you came here, was there anything special around here? Yang Kai suddenly thought of something. Special places? Such as evil qi or demonic qi. Yang Kai's expression became serious. Oh, you're talking about that. Qiu Yimeng smiled faintly. When we came here, we didn't see it, but we heard from your fellow disciple, Xia Hongchen, that the coiling dragon stream was once filled with demonic qi. Originally, the two nearby sects were preparing to relocate, but after a few months, there seemed to be something down there that was swallowing the demonic qi. Has anyone gone down there to investigate? Yang Kai couldn't help feeling a little nervous. The thing that swallowed the demonic qi, others didn't know what it was, but Yang Kai was clear. The old demon. When he returned here, Yang Kai had tried to probe his surroundings but couldn't find any trace of the old demon's aura. He should have succeeded, but Yang Kai didn't know where he had gone. Does this old demon want to take this opportunity to get rid of this young master's control? Yang Kai thought for a moment and thought of a possibility. It wasn't impossible. The old demon was a true demon. It was normal for him to be untrustworthy and unscrupulous. No one has gone down there to investigate. The nearby cultivator is extremely wary of the coiling dragon stream. Qiu Yimeng slowly shook her head. This was understandable. Who knew if there was still any danger down there? Before, when the demonic qi filled the heavens, everyone could feel a fatal threat, but now, although it was safe, no one dared to play around with their lives. Do you know what's down there? Qiu Yimeng suddenly became vigilant as she stared at Yang Kai. I don't know. Yang Kai shook his head. Qiu Yimeng curled her lips, knowing that he didn't trust her very much and still had a lot of reservations about himself. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about the reconstruction of your sect. I've spent a lot of time here, and although I've already sent a message back to the central capital, I need to return home as soon as possible, otherwise, my family will send someone to find me again. Qiu Yimeng said bitterly, as if she was very reluctant to return to the central capital. So I think it's best to let your fellow sect members rebuild this place on their own. I won't interfere and will leave everything to Xia Hongchen. What do you think? Chapter 370. If you say so, then so be it, I believe you. Yang Kai nodded indifferently. So generous. Qiu Yimeng snorted. If anything happens, don't come looking for me. Your fellow disciple looks good, but in fact, compared to you, he's far worse. I can only let him manage the sect. To the side, Luo Xiaoman also nodded her head in agreement. Although she didn't have a good impression of Yang Kai, and was even afraid of him, it was undeniable that this young man was quite outstanding among his peers. Whether it was his temperament, willpower, perseverance, or strength, he was much stronger than anyone else. You should know your fellow disciple better than I do. If you think he's not good enough, just replace him. Qiu Yimeng said casually. No need to bother. Rebuilding the sect isn't a big deal, just let him manage it. Yang Kai slowly shook his head, glancing towards the door and chuckling. He's here. Qiu Yimeng was startled but soon heard Xie Hongchen's shout from outside. Why are you stopping me? I'm going to find young Lady Qiu. Young Lady Qiu is discussing an important matter with my young lord. You can't enter. Tu Feng blocked the door and said lightly, his expression cold. Xie Hongchen couldn't help laughing as he stared at Tu Feng. Your young lord? What young lord? You're not talking about Yang Kai, are you? Did you make a mistake? This is my High Heaven Pavilion's territory. Is there a place I can't enter? Saying so, he tried to rush inside. You can't enter. Tu Feng still firmly blocked the door. His expression was calm. Xie Hongchen's face sank as he whispered, Since you were brought here by Yang Kai, I'll give you some face. Don't be so shameless, get out of my way, otherwise don't blame me for not giving you face. Tang Yuxian immediately showed a beautiful smile, one that was quite intriguing. Tu Feng stared at Xie Hongchen indifferently. His expression didn't change in the slightest. Inside the room, Qiu Yimeng stared at Yang Kai with a smile, seemingly wanting to see some clues from his face. Let him in. Yang Kai frowned. Xie Hongchen was still a disciple of High Heaven Pavilion. He was also an influential figure in the sect, but now he was behaving like an idiot. Yang Kai's face also darkened. When Tu Feng heard the order, he quickly turned around. Xie Hongchen coldly snorted, patted his clothes, and walked into the room with his head held high. When he saw the situation in the room, he couldn't help but be stunned. He found that Yang Kai was actually sitting at the table with Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman. This kind of treatment was something Xie Hongchen had never enjoyed before. Every time he came to see Qiu Yimeng, he would respectfully stand at the door and be dismissed by Qiu Yimeng after a few words. Why could Yang Kai sit here? Although he was feeling doubtful and depressed, he still wore a smile on his face. Xie Hongchen was very polite. Greetings, Miss Qiu and Miss Luo. N. Chiu Yimeng smiled faintly and said, "You came at just the right time. Your junior brother and I are discussing the reconstruction of High Heaven Pavilion. It seems he has some ideas he wants to discuss with you." Xie Hongchen chuckled. Narrowing his eyes at Yang Kai, he asked, "What ideas does junior brother have?" His tone was casual, but also somewhat provocative. Chiu Yimeng quickly adjusted her posture and made an expression of watching a good play. Interesting. This idiot still hasn't figured out Yang Kai's true identity. Not only did he dare to speak arrogantly in front of two blood warriors, he even tried to target a young lord of the Yang family. Even if he was stupid, how could he possibly be so stupid? Yang Kai frowned and said, "I don't have any opinions, but I do have a request." Xie Hongchen chuckled. "A request?" N. In front of Chiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman, Xie Hongchen could only pretend to be magnanimous and nodded, "Let's hear it. Everything in the sect should be rebuilt according to the original layout and deployment. All the buildings should not deviate in the slightest. Senior brother has lived in the sect for so many years, so you should be quite familiar with every blade of grass and every tree here. If you supervise, you should be able to do this." Xie Hongchen's face twitched slightly. When Yang Kai said these words, he didn't use a negotiating tone, but rather a commanding one, which naturally made him feel very uncomfortable. This is really a request. Just as he was about to ridicule Xie Hongchen, Yang Kai continued, "If there is a shortage of manpower, you can transfer some from the nearby Blood Battle Gang and Storm Hall. In the name of the Chiu family's first young lady, you can compensate them afterwards." Chiu Yimeng couldn't help rolling her eyes but didn't say anything. Xie Hongchen was startled, not understanding why Chiu Yimeng didn't even try to refute. "If there is a shortage of money and materials, send a letter to the central capital and ask the Chiu family's first young lady to transfer them to you. The Chiu family's financial resources are strong, so you don't need to worry about these things, right?" Yang Kai looked at Chiu Yimeng with a smile. Shameless. Chiu Yimeng ground her teeth in hatred. Xie Hongchen finally felt the situation was inconceivable, his expression fluctuating. At this time, if he still couldn't see the problem, he would really be a fool. This junior brother Yang in front of him seemed to have a different relationship with Chiu Yimeng. Otherwise, how could Chiu Yimeng not have any reaction to his words? Rebuilding a second-class sect was not a big deal for the Chiu family, but it still required a lot of financial and material resources. Did Yang Kai decide on this with just 2 or 3 words? If he had no relationship with Chiu Yimeng, how could she have agreed? Xie Hongchen's heart suddenly set off stormy waves as he subconsciously realized that this junior brother of his was no longer the same as before. In addition, Yang Kai tapped his fingers on the table, a moment later saying in a low voice, "Send out a summons to all the scattered disciples of High Heaven Pavilion, go home." The last 2 words, Yang Kai said firmly, like a big drum beating on the hearts of everyone in the room, causing everyone's heart to tremble. Only those who had lost their sect and had no one to rely on knew how tempting the word, "go home," was. The room was silent, and Chiu Yimeng's expression also became solemn. "Brother, do you have anything to add?" Yang Kai raised his eyes. Looking at Xie Hongchen, he asked. Xie Hongchen shook his head subconsciously, "No." During this time, he had been so focused on showing off in front of Chiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman that he hadn't thought much about the rebuilding of the sect, so how could he have anything to say? "If that's the case, then let's do as you say," Yang Kai concluded. Xie Hongchen was stunned for a long time before he suddenly recovered and turned to Chiu Yimeng. "Young lady Chiu, this?" Chiu Yimeng frowned. "Didn't you hear clearly?" "I heard clearly. But, can junior brother make the decision?" Xie Hongchen asked with a look of disbelief. Chiu Yimeng smiled. "He can't make the decision. Then no one will be able to call the shots." Xie Hongchen suddenly felt as if he had been struck by lightning, his eyes trembling as he stared towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai had already stood up indifferently. Walking towards the door, when he passed by Xie Hongchen, he suddenly paused. In a low voice, he said, "Brother, if you dare do anything to betray the sect again, I will make you regret ever living in this world." Xie Hongchen only felt a chill run down his spine, from head to toe. Qiu Yimeng didn't even look at him and simply followed Yang Kai out. Just as Luo Xiaoman was about to leave, Xie Hongchen quickly called out to her. "What's the matter?" Luo Xiaoman looked at him suspiciously, feeling that this idiot was quite pitiful. "Young lady Luo, my junior brother, what is his background?" Xie Hongchen pursed his dry lips and asked softly. Luo Xiaoman bit her lip. Secretly glancing towards the door, she whispered, "The central capital's Yang family's young lord, you'd best behave yourself." Saying so, she hurriedly chased after him. Xie Hongchen suddenly felt his body go soft and he fell to the ground. In an instant, sweat poured out of his forehead. Central capital's Yang family's young lord. Those few words were like a clap of thunder, but they exploded in Xie Hongchen's ears, causing his consciousness to blur. It turns out that his junior brother, whose strength isn't very high, is actually such a master. He couldn't help but laugh at how he had been targeting him these past few years, even secretly plotting against him. What qualifications did he have to fight with him? What qualifications did he have to compete with him? Yang Kai must be well aware of what had happened in the past, so why hadn't he killed him yet? Having his life spared so easily, Xie Hongchen not only didn't feel happy, but instead felt as if his heart had turned to ash. This kind of treatment and cold treatment was even more unbearable than killing him. Yang Kai must have let him go because he felt he was no longer qualified to fight with him. Would a tiger care about the provocation of an ant? Ha! Letting out a nervous laugh, Xie Hongchen suddenly felt that he was a complete loser in this life. Below the coiling dragon stream, 1,000 meters away. Inside Yang Kai's cave mansion, a group of people flew in. Looking at the familiar furnishings, Yang Kai's eyes flashed with the faces of Su Yan and Xia Ningchang. After the destruction of the sect, this was the only place that had been left intact. Inside the cave mansion, there seemed to be the scent of the two women's bodies, and the stone bed was stained with traces of Su Yanhuan. His little senior sister had also slept on it, and every time she fell asleep, no matter how he called her, she wouldn't wake up. Even if he tried to take advantage of her, she would turn a deaf ear. How could Yang Kai not know that she was pretending to be asleep, but because of her extremely shy personality, Xia Ningchang was too embarrassed to face Yang Kai's flirting. Regarding Xia Ningchang, Yang Kai wasn't worried. During this time, she must have been studying alchemy with Xiao Fu Sheng on Medicine King's Valley's hidden cloud peak. With Meng Wuya's protection, she should be safe. But what about Su Yan? Since the last time they parted, there had been no news of her. Where did she go? Seemingly feeling Yang Kai's heavy mood and the nostalgia in his eyes, the two blood warriors, Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman, just stood quietly at the entrance of the cave, not bothering him. Walking inside, Yang Kai sat on the stone bed and stroked its smooth surface, memories of the past flashing through his mind. After leaving this place, it would be difficult for him to return here in the future. The outcome of the central capital's inheritance war was difficult to predict. His mood fluctuating, Yang Kai found that he liked this place very much. Chapter 371. One day and one night later, Yang Kai strode out of the cave. The two blood warriors, Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman, had been waiting outside. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian's expressions were meticulous, while Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman had long since sat down in boredom. Seeing Yang Kai walk out with a calm expression, Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian couldn't help feeling slightly surprised. Although they hadn't seen Yang Kai for a day and night, they could clearly feel the pain coming from him. But now, the little lord had completely adjusted himself, without the slightest clue. His calm expression exuded confidence, causing both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian's eyes to light up. "Help yourselves, I'm going to go down." Yang Kai called out to everyone and walked straight to the entrance of the cave. Qiu Yimeng suddenly perked up and stared at him eagerly. "What's down there?" She had been here for some time now and was quite curious about what lay beneath the coiling dragon stream, but the people from High Heaven Pavilion had always been wary of it. Even the people from Blood Battle Gang and Storm Hall had advised her not to enter the coiling dragon stream. So until today, Chiu Yimeng had never thought of going down. But now that Yang Kai wanted to go down, she naturally became curious. Ha! Yang Kai smiled perfunctorily before directly rushing down. This guy. Chiu Yimeng stamped her feet but didn't chase after him. Yang Kai clearly didn't want her to follow him. If she followed him, it would only annoy him. In the blink of an eye, Yang Kai disappeared into the depths of the coiling dragon stream. Young Lady Chiu, please forgive him. My little lord's temper seems to be a bit too straightforward. Tang Yuxian chuckled lightly. She had only been in contact with Yang Kai for a few days, but she was keenly aware that Yang Kai had many good qualities that others of his age didn't possess. Because of this, Tang Yuxian was actually quite optimistic about this little lord and immediately tried to exonerate Yang Kai. It's nothing. Chiu Yimeng didn't care. Tu Feng glanced at her thoughtfully and asked casually, Young Lady Chiu and the little lord are old acquaintances? Chiu Yimeng smiled bitterly and slowly shook her head. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian couldn't help feeling slightly moved. Chiu Yimeng's status and aptitude were both extraordinary. Among the younger generation of the central capital, all the young lords of the 8 great families would be proud to befriend her, but now she was actually lowering her status like this. He didn't even have the confidence to admit that he was an old acquaintance of Yang Kai. What was going on? The bitterness and unwillingness in this smile was genuine and not fake. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian naturally saw it clearly. You can also feel his coldness towards me. Chiu Yimeng didn't show any sign of embarrassment and instead said quite frankly, he and I can only be considered acquaintances, that's all. The 2 blood warriors suddenly became curious, Tu Feng quickly asking, if it's convenient, can young Lady Chiu explain? If it's not convenient, just pretend I didn't ask. Chiu Yimeng's long eyelashes fluttered slightly. His expression was calm. After a while, he said, there's nothing inconvenient about it. The last time I led a team to High Heaven Pavilion to inquire about the Demon Lord, I met him. At that time, we were still enemies. You probably know most of what happened that day. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian nodded together. High Heaven Pavilion sect master and 4 elders had fought a dozen or so immortal ascension boundary masters from the Chiu family, Bai family, and Purple Fern Valley. Not only had they escaped safely, but they had also injured several of them. It was because of that battle that the world learned that there was an above immortal ascension boundary master in High Heaven Pavilion. But what the world doesn't know is quite mysterious. Mysterious? The 2 blood warriors couldn't help feeling surprised. For Chiu Yimeng to give such an evaluation, it seemed that there were still some unknown secrets that day. An mysterious High Heaven Pavilion is a mysterious sect, and your little lord is also a mysterious person. Chiu Yimeng smiled. Before that, she had never known that there was a place in this world that could connect the north and south, separated by thousands of kilometers. She also didn't know that a man whose cultivation base was far lower than hers could make her feel helpless and suffer defeat after defeat. What's more, she didn't know that someone could capture the heart of the beguiling demon queen in just a month. Chiu Yimeng thought that she was also a top talent. If she had been born a man, she would have definitely become the next patriarch of the Chiu family. Unfortunately, she had been born a girl, which was quite a pity. However, even she didn't dare compare herself to Yang Kai. This young man's potential was terrifying. If he really grew up, his achievements would far surpass his current level. Perhaps he could even create a legend. How mysterious. Tang Yuxian's beautiful eyes flashed as she asked expectantly. How mysterious, it's not convenient for me to say, but if you want to know, you can ask young Master Yang yourself. If I speak too much, he may really hold a grudge against me. Such a thankless task, how could I do it? The 2 blood warriors were suddenly stunned. Chiu Yimeng had just brought up their interest, but now she couldn't give them a satisfactory answer. This kind of uncertainty was really uncomfortable, like a cat was scratching at their hearts. If it had been anyone else who spoke like this, the 2 blood warriors would have used the Yang family's torture methods to force them to confess, but since Chiu Yimeng had said so, they couldn't do anything about it. With a serious expression, Chiu Yimeng said, Although it's not convenient for me to say too much, I can tell you that absolutely do not underestimate your little lord. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian suddenly became dumbfounded, their hearts filled with shock. Qiu Yimeng had used the word absolutely 3 times in a row, and her tone was quite dignified. What did this mean? It meant that the Qiu family's first young lady was extremely confident in Yang Kai. And it was 120% confidence. Those who underestimate him will pay a heavy price. Qiu Yimeng's pretty face turned and she laughed. Tu Feng's face twitched, suddenly feeling like this was all a bit unreal. Tang Yuxian's brow furrowed, unable to understand why Qiu Yimeng would speak so confidently and without reservation. However, even if the two of them were suspicious, they knew that Qiu Yimeng would definitely not speak without thinking. With a solemn expression, they nodded, "We'll remember." Qiu Yimeng nodded slightly, seemingly casually asking, "This time, in the Yang family's inheritance war, will you blood warriors participate?" Tu Feng smiled bitterly, "We don't know, the family hasn't specifically mentioned this yet. If you participate, if I were you, I would definitely follow him," Qiu Yimeng said solemnly. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian didn't deny this, only lightly replying, "Many thanks for young Lady Qiu's guidance. If that day really comes, we will consider it carefully." Qiu Yimeng no longer said anything, knowing that even if she spoke a few words, it would be impossible to influence the minds of these two immortal ascension boundary masters. When the time came, they would only choose who to follow based on their own judgment, others would not be able to interfere. Saying so much now wouldn't have much of an effect, at most it would only make them look forward to Yang Kai's performance even more. At the bottom of the coiling dragon stream, Yang Kai stopped at the place where he had first left and looked around, not finding any trace of the old demon. The old demon must have left this place long ago. The originally towering demonic chi was now completely gone, having been completely swallowed up by him. At that time, the old demon had said that he would look for Yang Kai after he finished dealing with the situation here, but what happened later was beyond the two of their expectations. The Qiu family had brought a large number of people to attack them, while Su Yen and the others had fled 10,000 kilometers through the Void Corridor. Yang Kai had run all the way to the ash-gray cloud evil land. This was something neither he nor the old demon had anticipated. Even if the old demon wanted to find him, he didn't have a clear direction. If this was the reason why the old demon hadn't contacted him until now, it was understandable. Was he disloyal or not? Yang Kai wasn't sure. Closing his eyes, Yang Kai slowly released his divine sense to investigate his surroundings. After a moment, his expression changed and he quickly turned his head to the side of the mountain. There was nothing special about this place, but under the probing of Yang Kai's divine sense, he was keenly aware of something unusual. Here, there was some residual demonic chi. Staring at it, Yang Kai stretched out his hand and waved it. A ripple spread out and a line of handwriting appeared on the plain mountain. The handwriting didn't look old and should have been made not long ago. Glancing at it, Yang Kai couldn't help smiling. The old demon didn't seem to want to escape his control and had used some special means to leave a message here. Old servant has succeeded and is now out looking for young master. If he cannot find him, he will return here in 3 months. Leave a message. This was clearly written by the old demon. The old demon was preparing to spend 3 months out to inquire about Yang Kai and would return here in 3 months. Because he knew that no matter what, as long as Yang Kai was still alive, he would definitely come here to find him. Leaving such a handwriting was enough to prove the old demon's loyalty. Showing a happy expression, Yang Kai used his finger like a sword and carved a line of words below. Central Capital, Yang Family. There was no need to say anything more. As long as the old demon returned here, he would definitely understand everything. Laughing, Yang Kai flew up like a bolt of lightning. Back in the secluded cave, Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian cast a concerned look at him. Yang Kai didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but he felt that the way they looked at him now was different from before, a lot more dignified and serious. Has everything been taken care of? Qiu Yimeng asked with a smile. What do you plan to do next? Yang Kai grinned, full of confidence. return to the central capital and participate in the inheritance war. Qiu Yimeng showed a knowing expression and happily said, "Good, I'm also going back. If you don't mind, how about we go together?" Yang Kai glanced at her and said indifferently, "Whatever." Qiu Yimeng smiled, "Then I'll borrow your light." Yang Kai was puzzled, "Borrow what light?" "You'll know tomorrow." Qiu Yimeng chuckled but didn't answer, instead saying, "Wait for me for half a day, I have to deal with some things here. I'll set off tomorrow morning." "Good." Yang Kai nodded. Qiu Yimeng also had to deal with High Heaven Pavilion's affairs, so she could naturally delay for half a day. Chapter 372. The next day, the group was ready to set out. No one from High Heaven Pavilion came to see them off. Xie Hongchen was even more aware that he no longer had the face to appear in front of Yang Kai, so he could only silently preside over the reconstruction of the sect. It wasn't until now that Yang Kai finally realized what Qiu Yimeng meant when she said she wanted to take advantage of him yesterday. The silver blood golden feather eagle soared high in the sky while Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian each rode a cloud-treading colt. Both of them stared at Yang Kai with a strange smile on their faces, seemingly looking forward to something. Yang Kai frowned and suddenly felt a little depressed. Their group only had 3 cloud-treading colts, one for each of the 2 blood warriors, one for Yang Kai, so Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman had no mounts. Tang Yuxian could take one more person, but what about the other? Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman were both young girls, and on this long journey to the central capital, there would be some bumps along the way. No matter which one of them rode with Yang Kai, there would definitely be some inevitable collisions. Between me and Xiaoman, you can choose one yourself. Qiu Yimeng didn't seem to care, her beautiful eyes staring towards Yang Kai as she said with a smile. She smiled sweetly, her beautiful eyes filled with a hint of ambiguity, making anyone who saw her unable to stop themselves from fantasizing. Luo Xiaoman also realized the current situation and couldn't help blushing slightly. Yang Kai grinned and said, "Yuxian, Tu Feng, I'll ride alone." The smile on Qiu Yimeng's face quickly converged as she stared at Yang Kai, seemingly not having expected him to refuse such a good opportunity to get closer to such a beautiful woman. On the other hand, the 2 blood warriors looked a little surprised. Tu Feng laughed, "I don't mind, but I'm afraid the 2 young ladies won't agree." Qiu Yimeng couldn't help glaring at him fiercely, causing Tu Feng to suddenly shut up and let out a hollow laugh. I have an idea." Qiu Yimeng's eyes narrowed slightly as she smiled. "What?" "You and Tu Feng can ride together, so Xiaoman and I can ride your horse." "You're dreaming." Yang Kai decisively refused. What a joke. If he were to ride the same cloud-treading colt as Tu Feng, what would that look like? Qiu Yimeng seemed to know he would say this, so her eyes narrowed slightly as she said, "Then you can go with elder sister Tang." Tang Yuxian, who had been watching the fun, heard these words and her pretty face suddenly became gloomy, and she couldn't help feeling embarrassed. Although Yang Kai was a young lord of the Yang family and she was a blood warrior of the Yang family, if Yang Kai really wanted to share a cloud-treading colt with her, she wouldn't refuse. He was on tenterhooks, afraid that Yang Kai would agree. Yang Kai frowned. He suddenly felt that things were a little difficult. "This won't do, that won't do, what are you going to do?" Qiu Yimeng wasn't in a hurry and simply smiled, a trace of craftiness flashing across her eyes. Apparently, she had already considered this issue yesterday. Yang Kai was silent for a long time, but he couldn't come up with a good idea. "Hey, you're a man. Come up with an idea. Don't tell me we're just going to sit here and wait." Qiu Yimeng urged. Yang Kai grit his teeth, jumped onto his cloud-treading colt, and stretched out his hand. Qiu Yimeng smiled happily and was about to climb up when Yang Kai suddenly called out, "Luo Xiaoman, come up." The Qiu family's first young lady's expression changed on the spot as she stared at Yang Kai in amazement, a trace of embarrassment flashing across her eyes as she secretly wished she could cut Yang Kai into 1,000 pieces. On the other hand, Luo Xiaoman, like a frightened rabbit, hurriedly stepped back and waved her hands, "No, no, don't." She didn't know why, but from the bottom of her heart, she was afraid of Yang Kai. Go! Yang Kai said impatiently, taking back his hand and shouting to Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian, preparing to gallop off. Hey! Xiao Yimeng hurriedly grabbed his thigh and angrily said, How can you be so heartless? Heartless? It's not like you don't know where the central capital is. If you don't want to travel by yourself, you can just hire a carriage. Yang Kai really didn't want to be entangled with her anymore. Xiao Yimeng glared at him bitterly, but seeing that he didn't seem to be joking, after a long time she said, Xiaoman, go up. I'm scared. Luo Xiaoman cried out. What are you afraid of? He won't bite you. Xiao Yimeng didn't allow her to explain, directly grabbing Luo Xiaoman's arm and throwing her behind Yang Kai while she herself leapt onto Tang Yuxian's cloud-treading colt. Hold on tight. Yang Kai said before urging his cloud-treading colt forward like a bolt of lightning. Luo Xiaoman was at a loss as she quickly grabbed onto Yang Kai's clothes, her pretty face instantly becoming pale. The rest of the way was silent. Xiao Yimeng seemed to be very angry and didn't speak to Yang Kai during the rest of the journey, but Luo Xiaoman, after a long day of fear, slowly relaxed. The road was long and bumpy, but from time to time, Yang Kai would feel two huge softies on his back, each of which was amazingly flexible, making him somewhat glad that he had made the right decision. Luo Xiaoman, this girl, was really strong. If he had brought Xiao Yimeng with him, he likely wouldn't have been able to enjoy such a feeling. Such a discovery seemed to make the trip back to the central capital a little less boring. Both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian also noticed the strange atmosphere in the group and didn't dare say anything, so the atmosphere along the way was quite silent. Only the sound of the wind whistling past their ears could be heard, not a single person speaking. Along the way, the entire world seemed to have learned that the Yang family was summoning its young lords, and news of the inheritance war was gradually spreading. The righteous and demonic Great War had broken out some time ago, and now the Yang family was about to launch the inheritance war. This year was destined to be a year of unrest for the entire Great Han dynasty. The inheritance war had also attracted the attention of tens of thousands of people. The Yang family's inheritance war, although it was just a top family selecting the next patriarch for its own family, each time it involved a wide range of people and had unparalleled influence. Almost all the great forces in the world would participate. These great forces participated in order to allow their family's younger generation to experience the demeanor and heritage of a top family's young lord, increasing their experience and tempering themselves. On the other hand, they wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to establish good relations with the central capital's 8 great families. If one's vision was correct and they followed the right people, they would naturally enjoy many benefits in the future. In addition to these great forces, there were also many lone cultivators who would come to the central capital to seek opportunities to stand out. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a grand event that everyone was looking forward to. Some people took advantage of this opportunity to leap over the Dragon Gate and become famous, while others were hunted down and killed. Both advantages and disadvantages coexisted. The entire inheritance war was a gamble. Gambling on one's life and future. And this war completely revolved around this generation of young masters of the Yang family. 5 days later, the group had arrived 10,000 kilometers away, but they were still some distance away from the central capital. The 3 cloud-treading colts came to a stop and Xiao Yimeng gazed into the distance, after a while saying, That's the Lu family's territory, I want to go there and borrow 2 cloud-treading colts. Saying so, she turned to look at Yang Kai and asked, Do you want to go there and rest? Yang Kai frowned and was about to refuse when Tang Yuxian suddenly said, Since you've come here, let's go, it won't take long. Yang Kai glanced at her suspiciously, not knowing why she had made such a decision for him. Tang Yuxian smiled and said, The Lu family seems to have some relationship with the Qiu family, right? Xiao Yimeng nodded, they are cousins. But of the central capital's 8 great families, which one doesn't have some kind of relationship with the outside forces? If you really think about it, the entire world is connected by blood. It's just that the Lu family and Qiu family's relationship is quite close and have often interacted with each other over the years. Tang Yuxian nodded, The Lu family is also a first-class family, so it won't be a disgrace for the little lord to visit. The meaning of her words was clear to Yang Kai in an instant. Tang Yuxian wanted him to take this opportunity to win over the Lu family and see if he could add some help to the upcoming inheritance war. Even if he couldn't win them over, at least he could get acquainted with them. Although Yang Kai now had the status of a young lord of the Yang family, in the end, he had nothing. A young lord of the Yang family without a solid foundation, no matter how strong he was nothing more than a paper tiger. After knowing her intentions, Yang Kai couldn't refuse and nodded. Good, this is their territory, but it wouldn't be polite to pay them a visit. Qiu Yimeng snorted, despising Yang Kai's hypocrisy. The Lu family wasn't a first-class family, but over the past few decades, it had been quite close to the Qiu family. After receiving the Qiu family's care and guidance, the Lu family's influence had gradually become stronger and had even produced an above-immortal ascension boundary master. This was something that had only happened in the past few years. If one really wanted to calculate, the Lu family wasn't very powerful among first-class forces. After being promoted to a first-class family, the nearby second-class and third-class forces had no choice but to bow their heads, so the Lu family naturally dominated. Lu Liang was the patriarch of the Lu family, and although his strength wasn't top-notch, only reaching the Immortal Ascension Boundary 7th stage, as a patriarch, strength wasn't the most important thing. His ability to communicate and manage affairs was the biggest reason for the Lu family's prosperity. It was also because he had not been stingy with his visits over the past few years and had contacted the Qiu family from time to time that he was able to hug the Qiu family's big tree. When the group arrived, the several guards immediately realized that the identity of these people was extraordinary and quickly stepped forward to ask them respectfully. They were the guards of the Lu family's gate, so naturally they had some insight. A monster beast like the cloud-treading colt could only be raised by first-class forces, which was enough to prove the nobility of Yang Kai's group. Qiu Yimeng reported her identity and name, and the group was immediately welcomed inside. Another guard hurriedly rushed inside, presumably to inform the Lu family's upper echelons. This was a manor full of lofts, with small bridges overflowing water, pavilions, and terraces filled with a variety of flowers and plants, giving one a refreshing feeling. These lofts weren't very tall, but they were exquisite, giving off a poetic and picturesque air. Qiu Yimeng walked at the front, Luo Xiaoman walking side by side with Yang Kai following behind and the two blood warriors at the back. As they walked, Yang Kai was also quite interested in this manner. Chapter 373. Before they had gone far though, a group of people appeared in front of them, led by the Lu family's patriarch, Lu Liang. Lu Liang was dressed in a blue robe, his figure tall and slender, with a small mustache above his mouth, giving him a refined and elegant appearance. His pair of slender eyes always exuded a wise and far-sighted light. The first impression this person gave was shrewd, but the second impression was still shrewd. He strode out from inside, a look of ecstasy on his face as he laughed heartily, quickly arriving in front of Qiu Yimeng and bowing respectfully. "Young Lady Qiu, your presence brings light to the Lu family's humble dwelling." Although he was the patriarch of the Lu family was supported by the Qiu family, and Qiu Yimeng's status in the Qiu family was not low, so when Lu Liang saw Qiu Yimeng, he didn't dare act carelessly. Moreover, it had always been Lu Liang who visited the Qiu family in the central capital. This was the first time a direct descendant of the Qiu family had come to visit his Lu family. For a moment, Lu Liang was both excited and pleasantly surprised. Qiu Yimeng smiled generously. "Uncle is too polite. I was just passing by here so decided to take a break. Have I disturbed you?" Lu Liang quickly waved his hand. "How could that be? It is my Lu family's honor to have eldest niece here. The Lu family will naturally welcome you with open arms. How could we possibly disturb you?" Qiu Yimeng calling him uncle made Lu Liang even happier, secretly thinking that all these years he had spent in the central capital had not been in vain. Now, he had finally established a solid relationship with the Qiu family. After a few words, the relationship between the two of them had become much closer. The Lu family elders behind Lu Liang also smiled and stepped forward one by one to salute. After exchanging some pleasantries, Lu Liang's expression became serious as he stared at the two blood warriors before turning his eyes to Yang Kai and asking, "Eldest niece, this young lord is..." Lu Liang's eyesight was extraordinary, so he could naturally see that Yang Kai's status was not low, otherwise, there would not be two immortal ascension boundary masters following behind him. Qiu Yimeng smiled but didn't answer, simply pointing her finger to the sky. At that moment, a loud eagle cry rang out, causing everyone in the Lu family to look up. In an instant, Lu Liang understood the identity of Yang Kai. Family head Lu. Yang Kai looked indifferent as he cupped his hands in greeting. The rest of the Lu family's upper echelons were shocked and secretly sized up Yang Kai. The Yang family had wantonly summoned the scattered young lords. The cries of the silver-blood golden feather eagles resounded throughout the great Han dynasty, and the masters of the Blood Warrior Hall had also been dispatched. How could the Lu family not know of such a major event? He had never thought that he would actually meet a young lord of the Yang family this time. Carefully sizing him up, he was surprised to find that this young man's eyes were calm, his expression firm, and his expression indifferent. Although he couldn't see anything special about him, he had the air of a young master from a great family. Immediately, he realized that none of the people from the Yang family were easy to deal with. Lu Liang laughed again and gestured, "Eldest niece, young Master Yang, please come in." While greeting them, he said to the people behind him, "Go and prepare the best food and wine. It is the Lu family's honor to have two distinguished guests today. We must not neglect them." Qiu Yimeng smiled lightly and pulled Luo Xiaoman inside, Yang Kai also following behind. Inside the Liu family's main hall, there were all kinds of delicious delicacies, a dazzling array of rare fruits, and jugs of fine wine were served one after another by beautiful maids. The atmosphere in the hall was warm as everyone toasted each other. Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman were both women, so it was naturally inappropriate for them to drink. Lu Liang had obviously taken this into consideration and had specially prepared the Lu family's unique fruit wine for them. The two women also drank with relish. Yang Kai's identity was different, and although he was a man, no one dared ask him to drink too much. When many of the Lu family's upper echelons came to offer him a toast, they all downed the wine in one gulp, allowing Yang Kai to do as he pleased. Tang Yuxian was treated the same as Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman, all of them drinking fruit wine. Tu Feng was the only one who was drinking with a heroic spirit. He was the Yang family's blood warrior, so in front of the Lu family, his status was not low. The Lu family's upper echelons all wore excited expressions as they frequently raised their glasses to Tu Feng. Tu Feng sat motionless next to Yang Kai, and when someone came to offer him a toast, he would drink it all in one gulp, making the scene even livelier. The Lu family's upper echelons were all tyrants in this region, but in front of the Yang family's blood warrior, they were nothing, their attitude and posture extremely low. In the past, they had only heard of the blood warrior's name but had never seen one with their own eyes. Now that there were two of them, naturally they wouldn't let them off so easily. Lu Liang's social skills were not undeserved. His eloquence was top-notch, his words not stingy with praise and flattery, but there was no trace of deliberate intent behind them, making everyone feel more comfortable. After 3 rounds of drinking, everyone was surprised to find that Yang Kai's young lord didn't seem to have any arrogance at all. He wasn't as domineering as the rumors said he was, and his attitude was also quite amiable, causing the Lu family group to be somewhat stunned. If it weren't for Qiu Yimeng saying that Yang Kai was a young lord of the Yang family, and that the identities of the two blood warriors couldn't be faked, Lu Liang would have doubted whether this person was really a young lord of the Yang family. "Uncle, you must be tired after such a long journey. Xiaoman and I will go to rest first. Please help yourselves." After eating and drinking for a while, Qiu Yimeng felt a little bored and stood up to say, "Come." Lu Liang quickly called out, and immediately 2 pretty maidservants walked in. "Take the 2 young ladies to their rooms to rest." After the 2 maidservants led Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman away, the banquet continued. One of the Lu family's elders suddenly smiled meaningfully and said, Patriarch, drinking like this is quite boring. Why don't you call someone to join in the fun? Lu Liang nodded slightly and said, It seems I was negligent. Saying so, Lu Liang reached out and patted the table. Immediately after, a group of scantily clad girls who sang and danced gracefully walked in. Obviously, they had been waiting outside for Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman to leave so they could enter the fray. All of these women were enchanting like flowers, their bodies covered in gauze, their flat bellies, delicate navels, snow-white arms, and slender legs all exposed to the air. All around, gongs and drums rang out, and wind instruments began to play. These young women first bowed in all directions, and then, with the accompaniment of the music, the corners of their mouths curled up into smiles as they danced and sang. Her curvaceous figure moved around, and an alluring spring scenery was faintly discernible. It was extremely alluring. These women were constantly throwing flirtatious glances at Yang Kai and the others, as if they were waiting to be plucked. All of them had coquettish looks on their faces, making them look quite alluring. Tang Yuxian couldn't help but snort lightly. Although she didn't like to see this, she understood Lu Liang's intentions and quietly observed Yang Kai's reaction. Tu Feng watched unscrupulously, the scar on his face seemingly becoming more and more ferocious. On the other hand, Yang Kai's face remained indifferent. Although there was a hint of appreciation in his eyes as they swept over these women, there wasn't the slightest hint of lust in his eyes. Even when these women danced in front of him and flirted with him, he didn't show much of a reaction. Seeing this, everyone sitting in the room couldn't help feeling secretly shocked. Young people, especially young men, liked beautiful women. Which one of the Lu family's elders present hadn't been young and frivolous? When they were around Yang Kai's age, they couldn't wait to take all the beautiful women in the world to their bed and slowly savor their beauty. It was only when one got older and their mentality changed that they would chase after higher goals. Lu Liang also intended to take this opportunity to inquire about Yang Kai's preferences and see if he was interested in women. However, he hadn't expected that in the face of such blatant temptation, Yang Kai would remain indifferent, not showing much interest. This Yang family young lord was somewhat unusual. In the face of temptation, being able to control his heart, such a young man's perseverance was absolutely amazing. As long as he had perseverance, he could achieve great things. In an instant, Lu Liang had some ideas in his mind and secretly nodded. Tang Yuxian's beautiful eyes also flashed with amazement. She had lived in the central capital all year round, so naturally she was familiar with the playful faces of these young lords. Not to mention these young girls, even some of these young lords would show a strong interest in her, causing Tang Yuxian to sometimes feel annoyed. Yang Kai's current performance undoubtedly made Tang Yuxian feel very gratified. What she didn't know was that although these women were all beautiful, Yang Kai had seen many beauties. How could they compare? Su Yan, Xianing Chang, Shanqing Luo, the Hu sisters, each one of them was a peerless beauty that could cause the downfall of a country. Moreover, after years of practicing the joyous unification art, Yang Kai had long ago been able to ignore the temptation of beautiful women. In this world, unless Shanqing Luo personally seduced Yang Kai, it was likely that no one could make Yang Kai fall in love without him even thinking about it. These young girls who sang and danced gracefully in front of Yang Kai were just a piece of cake. After a short time, after the song and dance ended, Lu Liang smiled and waved his hand, ordering the young women to withdraw respectfully. As they withdrew, all of them stared at Yang Kai affectionately, seemingly knowing that this young man's identity was extremely noble. If they could win his favor, they would also be able to fly up into the sky and become a phoenix, no longer needing to act as a dancer in the Lu family. Lu Liang laughed and said, "These women are all children of poor families nearby. My Lu family has adopted them since they were young and cultivated them to this day. Each one of them is a flawless white jade. Usually, when honored guests arrive, we will allow them to come out and perform a dance. Young Master Yang, would you be interested in receiving one or two of them? With beautiful women accompanying you, you can be proud of yourself in the inheritance war." Yang Kai smiled slightly and slowly shook his head. Lu Liang's slender eyes flashed, only now confirming that Yang Kai wasn't pretending and really didn't have any interest in these women. If he was interested, Yang Kai would only need to gently nod and Lu Liang would definitely arrange everything. Another elder of the Lu family, Lu Changmu, took over the conversation in a timely manner and said, "Speaking of the inheritance war, this old master can't help but recall the events of nearly 20 years ago. That time, the inheritance war was extremely tragic." Another person echoed, "How many great families have been unable to recover from this setback? How many families have disappeared? Unfortunately, my Lu family's strength wasn't enough at that time and wasn't able to participate. It is truly a pity." Chapter 374. The Yang family's inheritance war was about to begin, so the young lords of the Yang family would definitely try to win over their allies in order to win. This time, when Qiu Yimeng brought Yang Kai to the Lu family, although she didn't say anything, Lu Liang also understood her intentions and knew that this was an opportunity for him. 20 years ago, the Lu family had been on the decline, struggling to make a living in this small piece of land, so naturally they had no intention of participating in the inheritance war. But now, the Lu family had grown up and was a first-class family. People walk to higher places, water flows to the ground. How could the Lu family not want to climb to the next level? They had already hugged the Qiu family. If they could build a good relationship with the Yang family, the Lu family's future would be bright. However, hugging the Yang family's thigh was not so simple. The Yang family was a family made of iron, the helm of flowing water. Every time the patriarch changed, it would cause a lot of turbulence. Lu Liang wanted to participate in this time's inheritance war, but he didn't know if Yang Kai had the qualifications and strength to compete for the position. If he recklessly tied the Lu family to Yang Kai and waited until Yang Kai was defeated in the inheritance war, the Lu family's decades of hard work would be in vain. Lu Liang had no choice but to be cautious, and the Lu family's elders also had to keep their eyes open. The consequences of standing on the wrong side were not a joke. This was related to the future of the Lu family. The topic, intentionally or unintentionally, gradually shifted to the inheritance war, everyone reminiscing about the great event 20 years ago while secretly observing Yang Kai's reaction. However, to their disappointment, Yang Kai didn't seem to be interested in these things at all, just sitting there calmly, tasting the fruits and delicacies while listening quietly. Although he didn't show much interest, he also didn't show any impatience. The Lu family didn't know what he was thinking for a while. Gradually, the topic shifted to the current situation. Currently, the Yang family's young lords had not yet surfaced, so no one knew what kind of heritage these young lords had. However, there was a genuine Yang family young lord in front of him, so Lu Liang naturally intended to inquire about Yang Kai's connections and background. Seeing that the time had come, Lu Liang was about to pretend to casually ask when he saw Yang Kai stretch and yawn. Lu Liang couldn't help but swallow the words he was about to say. "Is young lord tired?" Tang Yuxian asked softly. Yang Kai said casually, "Not bad." Lu Liang's eyes flashed as he chuckled and said, "Since young Master Yang is weary from his long journey, let's call it a day. Come, escort young Master Yang to rest." Yang Kai didn't stand on ceremony. He slowly got up and cupped his fists at the crowd. "If that's the case, then I'll take my leave first. Young Master Yang is too polite." Lu Liang smiled lightly. After all was said and done, after Yang Kai and the two blood warriors left, the Lu family members all wore strange expressions. They all thought that Yang Kai had come to the Lu family to win them over, so the Lu family had been psychologically prepared. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for them to have been observing Yang Kai all this time. Lu Liang even thought that if Yang Kai couldn't hold back and went straight to the point, how he could refuse without hurting his face. After all, he didn't know anything about Yang Kai right now, so naturally, it was impossible for him to rashly agree to become Yang Kai's support. But he never thought that this young master would actually not mention anything, nor did he say anything and just left like that. This was far beyond everyone's expectations. "Patriarch," one of the Lu family elders frowned and said with a strange expression, Was he really just passing by? That shouldn't be the case. Lu Liang pondered for a while before slowly shaking his head. He must have had thoughts of winning us over. Although he acted very indifferent, I could feel it. Then why didn't he show it? The man coldly snorted. Is it because he doesn't have confidence? Many people also nodded in agreement. If it wasn't because he didn't have confidence, how could he not say anything? At the very least, he should have shown his strength and confidence, right? If that's the case, then the Lu family can't have any hope for him. Otherwise, when the time comes, we'll lose everything. Hearing this, everyone's expectations for Yang Kai were greatly reduced. Lu Liang frowned, his slender eyes flashing as he smiled slightly. Why do I feel that it's not that he doesn't have confidence, but rather that he wants to test our Lu family's taste? Everyone's expression changed. He wants to test our Lu family? Is he even qualified? Even if he was a young lord of the Yang family and could participate in the inheritance war, he was still just a young master. Why would he want to test the Lu family? Lu Liang chuckled. Have you all forgotten? In the inheritance war, not only are we choosing the Yang family's young lords, they are also choosing us. Do you really think our first-class family is so great? Shouldn't those young lords be scrambling to win us over and beg us to help them? Everyone looked at Lu Liang awkwardly and laughed. Someone quickly said, Patriarch's words sound so harsh, we didn't mean that, right? And it's just that if what Patriarch said is true, then this little brat is too arrogant, his eyes too high, right? No matter what, the Lu family was still a first-class family. They could at least provide you with some help. Whether it was manpower, materials, or any other aspect, they weren't too weak. Being able to help you was already a blessing. What was there to test? Lu Liang's expression became serious as he solemnly said, If my guess is true, then this young Master Yang is not simple. Everyone thought about it carefully and couldn't help feeling a little moved. Even a first-class aristocratic family had to consider carefully before they could become his support. This showed that he had a wide network of connections. In his eyes, the Lu family's support might be dispensable, which was why he was so indifferent and not anxious at all. If he really wanted to win over the Lu family right from the start, that would be a sign of lack of confidence. Thinking about this, Lu Liang felt more and more certain that his guess was correct. Immediately, he whispered, I don't know how many days that young master will stay in the Lu family, but in any case, when you see him again, don't mention the inheritance war, and don't show anything. After a moment of contemplation, Lu Liang nodded, I'll go find young Lady Qiu to inquire about the situation. This person was brought here by her, so he should know some details about this young master, right? Everyone nodded. Among this group of people, Lu Liang's strength may not be the highest, but his prestige was definitely the highest. It was under his leadership that the Lu family had prospered day by day. His methods and insight were obvious to all. The Lu family's backyard, inside a spacious courtyard. Yang Kai crossed his hands behind his back and stared off in a certain direction thoughtfully. Just as he was lost in thought, Tang Yuxian suddenly spoke, Little Lord, why did you act so dull just now? Your actions may cause them to misunderstand. Don't you want to win over the Lu family to help you? Yang Kai smiled lightly. If I said I didn't want to, would you believe me? Tang Yuxian smiled wryly and slowly shook her head. If he really didn't want to, he wouldn't have come here with Qiu Yimeng. Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman had come here because they wanted to borrow 2 cloud-treading colts, so Yang Kai could have just returned to the central capital directly. Since he had come here, he must have a reason. Actually, I really don't want to. Yang Kai chuckled and slowly shook his head. Believe it or not, it's up to you. Tang Yuxian suddenly froze and stared at Yang Kai suspiciously, seemingly wanting to peer into his heart, but Yang Kai's expression remained indifferent, without the slightest trace of lying. Tu Feng's expression also changed slightly as he stared at Yang Kai in surprise. In this current situation, the more support he could win over, the more help it would be in the future. Right now, there was a great opportunity. As long as Yang Kai could show enough strength to convince the Lu family would definitely draw closer to him. But why didn't he have any ideas? I don't have any friendship with the Lu family, even if they helped me, It would only be out of a mutually beneficial relationship. I don't like this kind of relationship. Even if they are temporarily tied together, when the time comes, it is inevitable that they will stab me in the back. What I want is an ally who will stand firmly by my side no matter how much pressure I am under, no matter how harsh the environment, no matter what kind of situation I am in. The two blood warriors both stared at Yang Kai, suddenly feeling that the little lord in front of them was a bit naive. The world was bustling with activity, coming for benefits, going for benefits, without benefits, who would be willing to share joys and sorrows with you. You don't believe there is such a person? Yang Kai grinned at the two of them. Both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian couldn't help lightly coughing, not knowing how to answer. There will be, you just wait and see. Tang Yuxian was startled, not knowing where Yang Kai's confidence came from, but his attitude made her feel a little touched, so she smiled and said, then we'll wait and see. Tu Feng also smiled, but today, little lord's approach isn't wrong. If you show any intention of winning them over, the Lu family will only feign civility and won't really take a stand. If that's the case, it's better not to say anything at all. Yang Kai nodded. The Lu family wants to know my details, that much I can also see. Now, no matter what they say, it's just a test. Before the situation is clear, they won't be able to make a real decision. The situation was naturally unclear now, and the Yang family young lords didn't know who the Lu family young lords were or how many there were. However, if you want to befriend someone, you should take advantage of the fact that he is still weak and wait for him to become strong before throwing in your lot in with him. The effect would obviously be different. Adding flowers to a brocade was never as comforting as sending charcoal in the snow. Enough about that. I'm not interested in the Lu family, but there is one thing the Lu family has that interests me, haha. Yang Kai chuckled. What is it? Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian both asked curiously. I don't know. Yang Kai said, turning around and walking back into the room. The two blood warriors couldn't help feeling stunned. How could there be such a thing in this world? He was obviously interested in something but didn't know what it was. If you don't know what it is, how could you be interested? Seeing Yang Kai walk into the room to rest, Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian both smiled bitterly, feeling more and more like they couldn't see through this little lord. Chapter 375. Today was Valentine's Day. I wish all the lovers in the world a happy ending. While Yang Kai was talking with the two blood warriors in another room, Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman, who had just finished bathing, had not yet had time to rest when a maid from the Lu family came to report. Young Lady Qiu, the patriarch asked me to ask if it is convenient for you to speak now? Qiu Yimeng shook her wet hair, her eyes flashing as she instantly understood Lu Liang's intentions. Frowning slightly, she said, "Let him in." The maid respectfully withdrew, and a moment later, Lu Liang walked in. Chuckling, Lu Liang said, "First young lady, the Lu family is not comparable to the Qiu family. Our land is sparse, so please forgive us for any neglect." Although they were meeting in private, Lu Liang didn't dare to call her his niece. Calling her Tu was more than enough. If he kept calling her Wen or Tu, it would inevitably make people unhappy. Lu Liang was a cunning old fox, so how could he make such a low-level mistake? Qiu Yimeng smiled lightly and said, "Uncle Lu being so anxious to see me, I'm sure you want to inquire about Yang Kai, right?" Seeing her get straight to the point, Lu Liang wasn't too surprised, his smile fading as he solemnly said, Now that the world is in chaos, the situation is confusing. How should the Lu family stand in this chaotic world? I hope the first young lady can give me some pointers." Saying so, he cupped his fists respectfully. Qiu Yimeng smiled gently, sat down at the table, glanced at him faintly and asked, "Are you wondering why I brought him to your Lu family, and whether this action of mine was a hint to you?" First young lady is intelligent. This old man was indeed thinking so. Lu Liang frankly admitted that his Lu family had relied on the Qiu family to achieve what they had today. It could be said that the Qiu family had shown great kindness to the Lu family. Now that Qiu Yimeng had brought Yang Kai to visit the Lu family at such a sensitive time, Lu Liang naturally thought of something. Did Xiao Yimeng think highly of Yang Kai? So she wanted to help the Lu family and give them an opportunity to hitch a ride with Yang Kai. Wasn't this a sure-win deal? Did Xiao Yimeng know Yang Kai's background and connections? Was that why she did this? All kinds of speculations ran through Lu Liang's mind in just half a day. Xiao Yimeng's brow furrowed slightly as she whispered, "You're not wrong to think so. I know you're a smart person, but I can tell you this. Bring him here this time. I'm not hinting at anything." "No." Lu Liang couldn't help feeling a little surprised. Xiao Yimeng nodded lightly. Her beautiful face was filled with anger. "I came to the Lu family just to borrow 2 cloud-treading colts." Lu Liang was stunned for a moment as he thought about it. It turned out that Xiao Yimeng only came to the Lu family for this reason. He laughed awkwardly. "The matter of the cloud-treading colt is easy. I'll have someone prepare it tomorrow." Xiao Yimeng nodded slightly. Lu Liang opened his mouth. He looked like he wanted to say something but hesitated. Xiao Yimeng knew what he wanted to ask and said, "I don't know how strong his background is, but I won't underestimate him. He can often do some unexpected things, and can also often surprise people and make them gasp in amazement." Lu Liang couldn't help feeling moved. Xiao Yimeng's evaluation. It was really quite significant. Regardless of Yang Kai's background and connections, it wasn't difficult to infer from the words of the Qiu family's first young lady that Yang Kai's personal ability was undoubtedly very strong. Thinking of this, Xiao Yimeng grit her teeth. Her pretty face filled with anger, she snorted, "And he's a very vengeful person." Lu Liang heard the coldness in Xiao Yimeng's tone and couldn't help shrinking his neck. He didn't know what Yang Kai had done to offend her, but looking at Xiao Yimeng's expression, it seemed she had suffered a lot. He looked down and saw nothing. He didn't hear anything. He didn't see anything. It seems that he does things based on his own preferences. He's both good and evil, very difficult to deal with. If you don't want to be friends with this kind of person, I'll give you some advice. Xiao Yimeng smiled gently. "First young lady, please advise." Lu Liang said solemnly. "Absolutely do not become enemies with him." Lu Liang paused for a moment before solemnly saying, "I'll remember." "Good, that's all." Xiao Yimeng nodded slightly and no longer said anything. Knowing that she was sending him off, Lu Liang naturally didn't stay any longer, bowing respectfully before slowly withdrawing. Before leaving the room, Xiao Yimeng said again, "Right? If you really want to gamble in the inheritance war, you should seize the opportunity now. The sooner you get close to one of the young lords, the greater the benefits you'll get in the future." Lu Liang nodded in agreement, suddenly asking, "First young lady, what about you? Whose side will you stand on?" In the inheritance war, the other 7 great families of the central capital would definitely participate, so the Qiu family was naturally not an exception. Xiao Yimeng was the first young master of the Qiu family's younger generation, so perhaps this time she would be the one to lead the team. "Don't worry about me, the future and destiny of the Lu family is in your own hands. Which young lord you stand on is your own decision. Success or failure in the future, whether it's sweet or sour, it's up to you to taste." Xiao Yimeng smiled lightly. Lu Liang was slightly disappointed. He knew that Xiao Yimeng had said this because she didn't want to take responsibility for her opinion in the future. Not saying anything more, he simply bowed and left. The next day, dawn. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian both walked out of the house and saw Yang Kai slowly practicing a set of seemingly ordinary martial arts techniques as the sun rose from the east. His movements were slow, but his expression was meticulous, and his movements were also quite rigorous. The little lord got up early. Tang Yuxian smiled. "It's a good thing that young people are full of energy." Tu Feng also smiled. "It's just that the martial arts the little lord is practicing don't seem to be anything special. If it were used by ordinary people to strengthen their bodies, it would be especially suitable for the elderly." Tang Yuxian couldn't help giggling as she covered her mouth. Tu Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes, motioning to her not to speak nonsense. Although he didn't agree with the martial arts Yang Kai was currently practicing, he was still a young lord of the Yang family. As a blood warrior, how could he gossip behind his back? If the little lord liked it, then he would just let him do it. In any case, it wasn't dangerous. Suddenly, Tu Feng's expression became solemn. Muttering in a low voice, "Something's wrong." "What's wrong?" Tang Yuxian hurriedly asked. "Look carefully." Tu Feng's expression became serious, and Tang Yuxian also stared at Yang Kai's movements. Suddenly, Tang Yuxian's pupils shrank. She found that Yang Kai's muscles were actually bouncing to the extreme and his feet were damp, obviously because his sweat had soaked the soil. Facing the rising sun, Tang Yuxian clearly saw Yang Kai's face and forehead. On the exposed skin, drops of crystal-clear sweat quickly formed and flowed together. The slow movements of his fists and feet seemed to be extremely heavy, with each step he took causing the ground to tremble slightly. This was clearly a sign that would only appear when one was under extremely strong pressure. However, what Yang Kai was displaying now was just a set of seemingly ordinary martial arts. Tang Yuxian had even commented that it was only suitable for the elderly to strengthen their bodies, so how could it have such power? After carefully observing for a while, the two blood warriors couldn't help but admit. Yang Kai seemed to be really under great pressure right now. His tensed physique seemed to contain a terrifying destructive force. However, this force seemed to be under some kind of inexplicable pressure and was being forcibly suppressed within his body, unable to be released. In other words, his physique was resisting this kind of pressure. With his body as the dividing point, he maintained a kind of balance. Where is this pressure coming from? Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian glanced at each other, both deeply shocked. Coincidentally, both of them released their divine senses and locked onto Yang Kai, closing their eyes and placing themselves in his shoes. As Yang Kai's fists and feet unfolded, both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian gradually integrated their senses into Yang Kai's surroundings. With the help of his movements, both of them slowly perceived the mysteries behind them. Empathy. Kong. A feeling like the sky was suddenly collapsing suddenly descended, as if the entire sky was pressing down on their bodies. Walla. A violent sound rang out and the ground where the two blood warriors were standing suddenly caved in. Spider-like cracks spread out in all directions. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian both opened their eyes at the same time, their faces filled with horror, their eyes filled with panic, their yuan qi involuntarily circulating, frantically resisting the pressure of the heavens and earth around them. How could they have imagined that the terrifying pressure they had just felt would disappear the moment they opened their eyes? Their full strength had erupted, but there was nowhere to vent it, so the surging yuan qi directly exploded inside their bodies. Two muffled groans rang out, and both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian paled as they staggered back a few steps. Both of them coughed up a mouthful of blood at the same time before feeling much better. Yang Kai turned his head and couldn't help frowning. When he had just displayed his unyielding golden skeleton, although he knew that the two blood warriors were behind him and could feel that they had released their divine senses to investigate him, Yang Kai had never thought it would cause such a bad consequence. No one had ever spied on him while he was displaying his unyielding golden skeleton, let alone felt the pressure he was enduring in such a detailed manner. Unable to react in time, the two blood warriors had already been injured. Quickly withdrawing his fists and feet, Yang Kai rushed over to them and asked, "Are you all right?" Both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian's eyes trembled, not paying any attention to their own injuries, instead staring at Yang Kai like he was some kind of monster, their faces filled with disbelief. The pressure they had just felt was absolutely not fake. Both of them had felt it. How could it be fake? But under that kind of pressure, that kind of terrifying pressure that no human could resist, how could this little lord in front of them remain unscathed? Based on his strength and the quality of his body, he should have been crushed into dust long ago. But now, Yang Kai was completely fine while two immortal ascension boundary masters had accidentally injured him. If this matter were to spread out, wouldn't they be laughed at by the other blood warriors? For a time, both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian were shocked and embarrassed. Both of them now only had one question: how did the little lord survive under that kind of pressure? Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.